She's trespassing. Arrest her. The voice echoed through the cul-de-sac like a siren. I looked up from the toolbox in my garage and saw Karen standing in the middle of our driveway, jabbing a shaking finger toward my wife. Her phone was clutched tightly in her other hand, already on speaker. Yes, 911. There's a strange woman threatening me in front of my house. My house. I stepped forward, my brow furrowing. That's my wife, and this is our property. Asterisk Curran didn't even blink. This is our community, and strangers aren't allowed to snoop around. Asterisk my wife stayed calm. She always did. Even. Now, in plain jeans and a hoodie, hair tied back, she looked like just another suburban mom. But I knew better. Asterisk, ma'am, she said, voice steady. I need you to step off our driveway. Asterisk Curran scoffed. Our driveway? That's funny. HOA guidelines say 2 cars only, and you've got 3. That SUV, that doesn't belong here. Asterisk, I took a breath, holding it for a moment. The SUV was department issued, unmarked, the kind only a few people could legally drive. Asterisk, go inside. My wife said quietly, looking at me, her hand subtly brushing her waistband. Not for a weapon, just for the badge hidden under her jacket. I didn't move. I knew what was coming. Asterisk Corinne was still screaming into her phone, rattling off false accusations with the confidence of someone who thought rules didn't apply to her. No, I'm telling you, she walked up and started threatening me, and I think she has a gun. Asterisk, I felt my chest tighten. That's the kind of lie that gets people hurt. Asterisk, my wife took a slow step forward. You've made a serious mistake. Ma'am, Asterisk Curran laughed bitterly. Oh, honey, you don't know who you're dealing with? I run this neighborhood. Asterisk, my wife smiled. Just slightly. Asterisk, no, she said. You don't know who you're dealing with. Asterisk, and that's when the real patrol car turned the corner. Lights flashing. Asterisk, the police cruiser rolled to a stop, its lights spinning red and blue across the quiet homes lining the street. 2 uniformed officers stepped out, hands resting on their belts, eyes scanning the scene. Corinne rushed toward them, all drama and fake panic, pointing back at my wife. Asterisk, officers. Thank God you're here. That woman's got a weapon. She threatened me. She doesn't belong here. You need to arrest her right now. Asterisk, one of the officers, a tall guy with a buzz cut, glanced at my wife, then back at Karen. Ma'am, please calm down. Let us handle it. Asterisk Karen folded her arms, smirking like she'd already won. I told you people not to ignore HOA complaints. This community's going downhill. First that car, now strangers walking around like they own the place. Asterisk. She does own the place, I said, stepping in. Asterisk Corin didn't even look at me. Sir, I wasn't talking to you. And I'll have you written up with the HOA too. You're violating at least 3 ordinances. Asterisk, the second officer tilted his head slightly, looking at my wife more closely. His expression shifted recognition, flickering behind his eyes, but he didn't say anything. Not yet. Then my wife slowly reached into her jacket. Karen gasped. She's reaching for something. She's armed. Asterisk, both officers stiffened, hands going to their holsters, but my wife stayed calm, moving in that slow, precise way they train you for. She pulled out a leather wallet and flipped it open. Asterisk, the golden badge caught the streetlight like fire. Asterisk, Chief Renee Torres, she said, her voice sharp and even. I need both of you to verify my ID and take this woman's statement on record. She just filed a false emergency report, and she's trespassing. Dead silence. Karen's mouth opened, but no sound came out. She blinked at the badge, like it was a weapon. One of the officers cleared his throat and stepped closer to examine it. He nodded. Asterisk double quotes. Yes, Chief. Verified. Asterisk Curran stumbled backward. This is a joke, right? She can't be. She doesn't look like a asterisk. She is. The second officer cut in. Asterisk Curran turned to me now, her voice shaking. You set me up. You set me up. Asterisk, I didn't smile. I didn't say a word, but inside I was just getting started. Karen's face went pale, her lips twitching as she tried to process what just happened. You could see it all over her panic, disbelief, and that Karen brand entitlement cracking. Right down the middle dot asterisk. I didn't know she was. I thought she was just. She stammered, her voice dropping lower with each word. The neighbors had started peeking through windows, one or two even stepping outside with folded arms, watching the show unfold. Asterisk, my wife didn't flinch. You called 911, claimed a law enforcement officer threatened you. That's a felony level. False report. Asterisk Curran snapped back into character, voice suddenly high again. But she never said she was a cop. How was I supposed to know? Asterisk, that's not how the law works, Officer Buzzcut said. His voice clipped. Asterisk Curran turned to him like he'd just betrayed her. Oh, come on. I've been reporting code violations for months. You people never do anything. Now some stranger shows up and you're all standing around like I'm the bad guy. Asterisk, that's because my wife said, stepping forward, you are the bad guy. Karen's jaw dropped, but my wife kept going. You've been impersonating HOA authority, putting fake notices on homes, threatening neighbors, filing bogus complaints, harassing delivery drivers. We've got records on all of it. Asterisk, I am the HOA, Karen insisted, trembling now. I'm on the board. Asterisk, you were removed 3 weeks ago, the second officer said flatly. Your access was revoked. That was before you put that eviction notice on the Gonzalez family's front door. Karen blinked, completely frozen. Oh yeah. She didn't know we'd been watching. Asterisk, see. We didn't just move in. We moved in strategically. My wife had been receiving anonymous tips about HOA harassment and racial targeting in this neighborhood. The department sent her in quietly. Bought the house. No official announcement. No badge on display. Asterisk, just surveillance. Quiet observation. Asterisk and Karen. She made herself the perfect case study. Asterisk, you've been under quiet investigation since last month, my wife said. And you just gave us everything we needed. Asterisk Karen's face crumpled. This can't be real. Asterisk, but it was. And it was only going to get worse. Asterisk Karen staggered back a step like she'd been punched, not physically, but in her pride. You could see it crumbling, like she was realizing for the first time that the world didn't revolve around her clipboard. On homemade HLA flyers. Asterisk. You can't do this, she muttered. I know people. I have rights. Asterisk, and so do the people you've been harassing? My wife replied coldly. The Gonzalez family? They've lived here longer than you. The single mom on Maple Street? You told her kids were too loud for this community. You filed complaints against the Thompsons because their son wore a hoodie. We have every single incident recorded. Asterisk Curran's eyes darted to the patrol car. You're just going to let her accuse me like that? Asterisk, not accuse, Officer Buzzcut said. Documented, witnessed. We've had surveillance teams rotating through this neighborhood for weeks. You just handed us your final piece. Asterisk, that's when Curran's voice cracked. I didn't mean it like that. I was just trying to keep the community clean. You don't know what it's like. People don't follow the rules anymore. Asterisk, you made your own rules, my wife said, and tried to enforce them with fear. That's not a community, that's control. Asterisk Curran's shoulders sank as the second officer approached with a citation pad. Karen Douglas, you're being cited for filing a false police report, trespassing, and impersonating an HOA official. We'll be forwarding all of this to the county prosecutor. Asterisk, no, no, please, she whispered. This will ruin me. Asterisk, I finally spoke up, locking eyes with her. You thought you could ruin everyone else. One family at a time, and now that it's your turn, you want sympathy? Asterisk, Corinne looked like she might cry, but there were no tears. Just the hollow panic of someone who had always gotten their way until today, asterisk, and just when she thought it couldn't get any worse. Officer Buzzcut reached into the patrol car and pulled out something that made Karen's mouth fall open. Asterisk, a manila folder thick, full photos and printed emails. Let's talk about the forged signatures on those HOA letters, he said. Karen's knees buckled slightly. She hadn't even seen the real evidence yet. Karen's breath hitched as her eyes locked onto the manila folder. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again, but no words came out. Just that hollow dread sinking deeper into her face with every second. Asterisk, the officer flipped it open slowly, deliberately, letting her sweat. You recognize these? He asked, holding up a photo of her standing on a neighbor's porch, sliding a fake HOA notice into their mailbox. Another picture showed her in front of the community bulletin board, replacing the official documents with her own typed-up warnings. Asterisk, Karen shook her head frantically. Those are old. That's not what it looks like. Those were samples. I never meant for them to be. Asterisk, my wife cut in, voice sharper than ever. We traced the IP address on the fake emails. You used your HOA access to forge violation reports and complaints, then emailed them to the board under fake names. You created your own fake HOA hotline. Every single report was you talking to yourself. Asterisk gasps echoed behind us. We hadn't noticed, but nearly a dozen neighbors were now gathered along sidewalks, phones out, watching, recording, whispering. Finally seeing who Corinne really was, asterisk, one voice spoke up. She reported me for having a grill on my balcony. That wasn't even mine. Asterisk, another. She said my dog looked aggressive. He's a beagle. Asterisk, Corinne spun around, panic rising, eyes wild. You're all turning on me. I protected this place. Asterisk, no, my wife said, stepping beside her. You policed it, illegally, with fear, and now it's over. Asterisk, Corinne suddenly dropped to her knees, right there on the sidewalk, her hands clenched together like she was begging. Please, I can't have a record. I'll lose everything. Just let me explain. I was just trying to do what the HOA couldn't. I was trying to keep things ... right? Asterisk, Officer Buzzcut didn't even blink. What you did wasn't right. It was targeted. It was criminal. And honestly, it was personal. Asterisk, that's when my wife leaned down slightly, just enough for Corinne to look into her eyes. Asterisk, maybe next time, she said quietly, don't call 911 on a cop's wife. Just because she parked in her own driveway. Asterisk, and with that, the cuffs came out. Asterisk, the metallic click of the handcuffs was sharp and final. Karen flinched as her wrists were pulled behind her back, her breath coming in short, panicked bursts. Her perfect suburban image, the fake power, the clipboard queen routine gone in an instant. Asterisk, the neighbors stood frozen for a second, then slowly, one by one, began pulling out their phones, not just to record, but to cheer. Quiet claps turned into scattered applause. A few even laughed, shaking their heads like they were finally breathing after holding it in for too long. Asterisk, about time. Someone muttered, she made my son cry over sidewalk chalk, said another. Karen twisted to look at the crowd, desperate. You're all wrong about me. I was just trying to help. I gave this place structure order. Asterisk, no, I said flatly, stepping forward. You gave it fear. And you hid behind rules that didn't even exist. Asterisk, my wife turned to the crowd. If any of you were threatened, harassed, or falsely cited, the department's setting up a neighborhood support line. Every report helps us shut this down fully. Asterisk, several hands went up. Phones started texting. Karen's eyes widened again. Asterisk, this isn't happening. This can't be happening. But it was. As the officers guided her to the patrol car, Karen tried one last time. You're making a huge mistake. I know the mayor. I'll get a lawyer. Miss is just going to make me famous. Asterisk, the officer paused as he opened the car door. Actually, he said without turning, you're already trending. One of your neighbors live-streamed the whole thing. Karen's mouth hung open, stunned silent as she was lowered into the back seat. I looked at my wife and raised an eyebrow. Still want to cancel that vacation? Asterisk, she smirked. After this? I think we earned it. Asterisk, but even as the car pulled away, lights flashing, I knew this wasn't the end. Not yet. Because something Karen said still didn't sit right. Asterisk, she'd whispered it as she was cuffed, barely audible like a threat hidden under her breath. Asterisk, this isn't just me. You don't know who's really running this HOA. Asterisk, and just like that, we realized there might be more beneath the surface. Asterisk, that one sentence echoed in my head long after the patrol car disappeared down the street. Asterisk, you don't know who's really running this HOA. Asterisk, I looked at my wife, and for the first time that day, her expression shifted from calm to calculating. She'd heard it too. And knowing her, she'd already filed it away like a puzzle piece she hadn't placed yet. Asterisk, we didn't say much as we walked back up the driveway. The neighbors were still buzzing, thanking us, apologizing for staying quiet, offering cookies like it could undo what Corinne had put them through. But my wife just smiled politely, nodded, kept moving. Her brain was elsewhere, asterisk inside the house. She went straight to the small safe in the closet and pulled out her department-issued laptop. The same one she hadn't touched since we moved in. She typed in a few passwords and brought up the internal database. Asterisk. Corinne was a pawn. She muttered. Asterisk. I leaned against the doorframe. You think she was working with someone? Asterisk. She wasn't smart enough to run all this alone. Organized surveillance, faked documents, multiple digital identities. She barely knew how to use her email. Asterisk. She opened a folder labeled HOA Incident Archive and scrolled. Names, dates, property violations all logged, but something stuck out. A series of complaints, all with the same formatting, same language, same timing. They looked like different people submitted them, but it was too clean, too sensed. My wife cross-referenced the metadata. Same IP address, she whispered. Asterisk, Karen's. Asterisk, she shook her head slowly. No, this one's masked. Bounced through proxies. Whoever this is, they know what they're doing. A chill ran through me. Could be another board member, I said. Or someone above them. Asterisk, she turned the screen toward me. These emails, they were CC'd to one name consistently. Gregory Hawley, president of the HOA Council. Asterisk, I frowned. I'd only heard the name once in a welcome packet. Never seen the guy, never even met him. Asterisk, looks like we've been playing the wrong game, she said quietly. Corinne was just the opening move. Asterisk and Hale. She stared at the screen, her voice low and steady. He's the king. Asterisk, and just like that, everything changed. What we thought was a petty suburban tyrant had just become something else. Asterisk. Bigger, deeper, and far from over. Asterisk, the next morning didn't feel like victory. It felt like a countdown. Asterisk. The sun rose over the cul-de-sac like nothing had happened. Sprinklers ticked on. Dogs barked in the distance. Kids rode scooters down the sidewalk. But underneath all that normalcy, something had shifted. Asterisk, my wife, sat at the kitchen table, sipping black coffee, eyes locked on the screen. The more she dug into Gregory Halley, the more rotten it got. He wasn't just the HO president, he was untouchable. He'd been appointed, not elected. The board hadn't had an open vote in 5 years. Every complaint that went against him, buried. Every family who spoke out, suddenly hit with citations or foreclosure threats. Asterisk, and the creepiest part, Hale owned property in the neighborhood, but didn't live here. Not full-time, asterisk. He's running this place like a business, my wife muttered. And Corinne, she was the muscle, the face, the distraction. Asterisk, I leaned over her shoulder, watching, as she pulled up financial records. He's been collecting extra dues under fake improvement funds, landscaping fees, community watch donations, all funneled through a shell company. She clicked again. Another folder opened. Dozens of names, families, single parents, elderly homeowners, all targeted, all driven out over time. Asterisk, I swallowed hard. This wasn't about weeds or fence heights. It was about control. Asterisk, she nodded. And profit. We sat there for a moment, staring at the names. Then my wife closed the laptop, stood, and walked to the window. The wind moved gently through the trees and across the street. The Thompson kids were drawing chalk art on the sidewalk, something Karen had once tried to ban. My wife smiled faintly. We end this, she said. Asterisk. How? Asterisk, she turned to me, eyes steady. The right way, the legal way. We don't just expose him. We bring down the whole rotten system. Not just for this street, for every neighborhood he's touched. Asterisk, I stepped closer. You're going public? Asterisk, no. She said, we're going federal. She picked up her phone, dialed a secure line, and waited. This is Chief Renee Torres, she said. I need to speak to Internal Affairs. It's about HOO corruption and potential racketeering. Asterisk, I watched her calm, strong, unshaken. This wasn't just a revenge story anymore. It was a mission. Asterisk, and as she ended the call and looked back at me, she said the words I knew would define everything that came next. Asterisk, they thought they were dealing with just a wife. But I serve this country, and I protect its people. This is my neighborhood now. Asterisk, and just like that, just distant. Knocked on, it walked right through the front door.